Does the Rost Martin RM1C Comp have what it takes to break into an already very heavily saturated striker-fired market? That's what we're going to talk about today on PP Tactical. If the first thing you said when you saw this gun is, wow, this gun looks familiar, it's because it is. If you've seen the AirX Delta M, they're almost exactly the same gun if you look at them internally, but Rost Martin has made some changes and been able to bring this to the US market as a US manufactured gun. So they're based out of Dallas, Texas. In one way or another, we should all support companies that are bringing manufacturing back to the US. I think that's pretty cool. This is a 15+1 striker fired gun, pretty similar to a lot of the things that we see on the market. It comes with a 15-round flush fitting magazine, as well as an extended magazine with your base plate on there that's going to still give you that flush full firing grip. So now that we're already kind of jumping into that, let's talk about shooting. All right guys, these are our first rounds through the RM1C. This one has the compensator, the port here on the top. Let's go ahead and take these shots, see how it goes. Oh, that's nice. I like it. Well, it's safe to say the compensator definitely works. Felt really awesome. Let's run some more rounds through it. All right guys, so as you can see, when I came up to shoot strong hand only, if you push your trigger finger down too far and try and drag your finger kind of across the bottom of the trigger guard, like some people do that for shooting single hand only for better accuracy, yeah, you're not gonna be able to push that trigger at all. So, but if you come up and put it up a little higher, the gun's gonna be able to shoot just fine. There's a chance that the way that you put your finger on this trigger could make it not be able to shoot. More AAC ammo loaded up for the RM1C Comp. Oh, my finger's so cold. You can see my hands just starting to move slow, but yeah. Gun ran, that ammo, totally fine. So pro tip guys, when you are missing the steel and you can't figure out why, make sure your optic isn't wiggling back and forth. To be fair, I mounted this today and did not let the Loctite set for 24 hours like you're supposed to. So just something to keep in mind. First impressions of the Rost Martin RM1C Comp. Very easy to control, very easy to shoot. Trigger feels pretty good. We got some stuff we'll talk about with that in just a second though. But overall, this is run everything 100% flawlessly. Let's talk about the ergonomics of the gun, and then we'll jump and talk a little bit about the accuracy of the trigger and the shooting. The beaver tail and the way it's designed is actually something that I really like on this gun. I feel like I can get a nice high dominant grip, but I also have the ability to have my thumb protected. Now I am wearing gloves today because it is pretty cold out here, but a lot of guns, you know, I'll get my thumb chewed up a little bit, but with this, I did not find that to be an issue. Now, one thing that you have as a trade-off a lot of times with beaver tails is a difficulty drawing from appendix. So when you have a gun set up like this in the appendix position, a lot of times you want to do that claw grip and be able to drop that thumb straight over the back of the beaver tail. If your beaver tail is too big, it's going to be painful and a lot more difficult to establish that full firing grip from the appendix draw, for example. I did not find that to be the case with this gun. My thumb is actually able to slide over that beaver tail really easily. I did a lot of dry fire and dry reps just running this over and over, and I found my thumb was able to drop down into that full firing grip, no problem. So that's one thing I think this gun actually does really well, is when you pick it up and you press that gun out to full extension, you'll notice it sits well in your hands. It doesn't feel like you have a ton of material sitting on top of your hands. Now, one thing I gotta say that I don't love so far with the ergonomics is the grip texture and the way that it's profiled on here on the gun. You got a little bit of texturing right here on the side panel, a little bit on the back, some on the front. You have some big gaps here, and then you have all of this dead space up here towards the top of the frame. To make sure that I was getting the full performance out of this gun and not letting it be limited by this, I did throw a little bit of bicycle inner tube. That's kind of like my go-to addition to grip texture. Because this was so slick, I couldn't hold on to it. My support hand was immediately slipping off, and there's just no traction here to really be able to drive and lock my support hand in. Obviously that's subjective. Some people want a smoother grip because it's gonna be more comfortable for them. I don't like that. I want to be able to have that traction so I can really lock into the gun. So it's something to keep in mind with this gun, somewhere that they could potentially improve. You'll notice this trigger guard is actually pretty smoothed out, and it's really nice. Sometimes trigger guards are very, very sharp right here on the edges, and you can kind of get your fingers pinched a little bit when you're gripping the gun. Not the case with this. It's pretty smoothed out and rounded here. It's not really a big problem. And then you'll see just how massively wide this trigger guard is. On a day like today where I'm wearing gloves, I have absolutely no problem getting my finger in there to be able to pull that trigger. It doesn't have like a double undercut or something like that underneath here. I don't think that's entirely necessary. Kind of undertang right here does go high enough up into the frame that I get a good lock and connection driving my support hand down, or my firing hand down. So I think the trigger guard actually is something that they did well with this gun. Now the magazine release, I actually really do like the design of the magazine release. It is this teardrop shape, and a lot of guns just have a little square or just a little circle, but this teardrop shape actually allows you to depress the magazine a little bit easier. So if you're rolling your thumb in, you don't have to press directly down on the magazine release. You can kind of slide across it, and you're going to be able to depress and release that magazine for reload. I think they did an excellent job with the design of this. Definitely some kudos for the RM1C in that department. Like mini guns, it comes with some adjustable back straps, so you can adjust those back straps super easily. And then the magazines have this little depression here, so in the case that you get a failure to extract, you can rip the magazine out of the gun, and you're not going to have to worry about that too much. So now that we've talked about the ergonomics of the lower, we're going to go and jump and talk about the slide. Start out with the serrations. Pretty general serrations, nothing crazy to write home about, but they 100% do the job that you need them to do. You got a few forward serrations here, so when you want to press check the gun or rack from the front, or if you want to rack over the top back here or slingshot, they're definitely deep enough that you're going to be able to, even today I'm wearing these gloves, able to manipulate that slide no problems. And the slide weight isn't too heavy. You know, it's kind of your typical striker fired weight when you're racking the slide. You're also going to notice this top mounted port compensator deal. Now I think we get wrapped up on what is the difference between a port and a compensator. I think that's for each company to decide what they're going to call it. Rost Martin is calling this an integrated compensator, so that's what we will go with. One thing that's going to be really interesting to note about this, people have concerns with carrying a ported gun for concealed carry. Now you have to know the difference between how ports work. Sometimes they drill ports directly into the top of the barrel, and sometimes they have a port at the end of the barrel here, or in this case they're calling it a compensator. For this type, you're actually going to have the rifling end right at the beginning of where that comp or port begins. So once the bullet hits this portion of the barrel, there's no more rifling. So you don't have to worry about more like metal shavings spitting up in your face like you do with a traditional inline porting where the rifling, where it's ported over the rifling. So I actually don't think that's something you're gonna have to worry about too much. Obviously it would be something you would want to test, but all the same, the port and comp here at the end of the barrel actually works very well. It was very, very noticeable how much less muzzle climb I was having, even shooting very, very rapidly and with less than ideal grip texture wearing these gloves. Able to control and shoot this gun very well, very quickly. So I think the design and how they have this compensator set up definitely works well. So let's talk about our optics system that comes with this gun. It does come with a set of iron sights that are metal, which is really nice, and they have kind of like a dovetail in, so you're not having to screw anything in from the bottom or anything like that. The serrated blacked out rear, and then a white insert front. So you're going to notice back here too, you've got a little striker indicator. Whenever you pull the trigger, you'll see they got that red there. When you pull the trigger, it's going to depress and go away. Very similar to some of the Walther guns, the Canik guns. The optics mounting system, like a lot of guns, are companies I find are going one of two ways. They're either making like a pin system, like the Echelon or the RXM, or they're sticking with their proprietary plates. The RM1C has the plate system. This one came with an RMR footprint plate. You bolt the plate onto the slide, then you mount your optic onto the plate. People have differing opinions on what they want, what they're looking for. This does work perfectly fine, so you're gonna be able to, out of the box, mount any of your RMR footprint optics. So you'll be ready to go. You won't have to go out and buy any more plates or anything like that. All right, now we're gonna jump into the accuracy portion of this test. We have a few different ammo types we're gonna test through this RM1C Comp. AAC 115 grain FMJ, some Blazer brass 115 grain FMJ, some Federal HST 147 grain defensive hollow points, and some Monarch 115 grain FMJ. We're gonna shoot 5 rounds each at 7 yards, and we're gonna see how our results look. So first up, the AAC 115 grain. Pretty good. Look at that. I'm literally having the trigger getting stuck just right here. Look at that. I can't. So I'm trying to film, trying to shoot this accuracy, and I can't. I'm not even on the bottom of the trigger and the gun's getting stuck. My finger's not on the bottom of the trigger guard like we talked about. There we go, guys. But you can see I was trying to pull it for a little while and I couldn't even get the gun to shoot. So positive, the accuracy on this gun is pretty good. It's out here very, very cold. I'm not used to this, but we still got pretty good results here at 7 yards. All those groups are well within an inch, with our best group actually being the Monarch 115 grain range ammo. As you can see, all those rounds are basically touching each other. That's definitely probably within a 3/4 inch group right there. And then our defensive rounds, Federal HST, also have a very small group. So overall, I think the gun's going to be plenty accurate, provided that you, the shooter, are able to make it so. The most disappointing part about this gun, and also the best part of this gun, is the trigger. So we'll talk about how the trigger feels, and then we'll talk about the problems with actuating the trigger. The trigger itself, if you've shot like a Canik Rival SFX, it's very similar to that, just a little bit heavier because this is a duty or carry gun. So you'll have your trigger dingus depressed when it works, and then you'll come to a wall, a very defined wall. You'll add pressure and you don't really have any over travel at all, and the gun goes off. I don't really care about the reset because I don't ride the reset, but for those of you who do, there's your reset, gun is back ready to shoot. So I'll show you that trigger press one more time. You come to a very firm wall and you're adding pressure, and the gun clicks. You don't have any over travel. I love the way the trigger feels. It's very, very confidence inspiring, coming to that firm wall, knowing you're about to land where you need to land and pressing that shot through. But now we're gonna talk about the main problem with this gun is the trigger. So as you've seen in some other clips, depending on how I put my finger on the trigger, I may not be able to pull the trigger, and sometimes it goes off and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes if I come too low and I'm kind of scraping towards the bottom of the trigger guard here, like there, I'm able to catch it. Sometimes it's gonna get stuck and you're not gonna be able to pull the trigger. So that was happening when I was shooting strong hand only. It was happening a little bit, and then it actually happened when we were testing our accuracy. The trigger just got stuck and it wouldn't shoot. So that's definitely something that I think is room for improvement with this gun. That's been really awesome so far, is extending your trigger safety. I call it the trigger dingus. Extending your trigger dingus down towards the bottom of the trigger. Like on basically every striker fired gun that has one of these, you're able to pull the trigger directly from like the bottom of the trigger guard and it's not going to get stuck. Luckily, that's a very easy fix. That's something that's extremely easy to change. I hope to see that improvement made in the future. All right, so we got our gun, we got our Lyman digital trigger gauge. We're gonna go ahead and get a 3-round pull for the weight and see how it goes. Average was 4 pounds, 3.7 ounces, which is pretty cool. Not too heavy of a trigger, so you're gonna be able to be pretty precise with it. Now I'm gonna use this little trigger gauge to show you, and I'll swap sides. So let's say your finger was along the bottom of the trigger guard right there. I can't pull it down here. It's not gonna be able to go off because I'm not engaging that trigger safety. I have to engage the trigger safety, then pull the gun. So kind of our final thoughts shooting experience with the RM1C Comp. Besides the trigger issues that I mentioned before, this gun actually shoots very, very well, and I like the way it shoots. I mentioned a lot, I like the way it feels in my hand. I like the way it recoils with the compensator system. It sits low in the hand and you're able to control the gun. We shot a few hundred rounds through it. We did not have any reliability issues whatsoever, shooting a variety of different range ammo types, as well as shooting strong hand only, weak hand only, both hands, all the things. The gun ran incredibly well, which I'm not surprised by. I'm really glad that it did well. I think that they're a new company, right? They're bringing new products to market. There's always going to be growing pains. No company does everything right the first time, but there is a lot going on right with this gun. I think the trigger shoe is something they can fix very easily on models going forward. The trigger profile, the way it pulls, is excellent. I think that's a huge win that they got going for it. Accuracy in this gun that we just saw is very good. So overall, I think Rost Martin is definitely bringing some really good options to the market at a price level that is very, very tangible for a lot of people. Usually when you're buying guns at the price level that these things are coming at, you're not getting a lot of the good features that you are at some higher level, higher priced guns. You're not getting a trigger this good at a gun this price, especially with the RM1C, the non-compensated version. Most guns in that price range, you are not getting a trigger anywhere near as good without doing a lot of aftermarket stuff to it. I'm excited to see what Rost Martin's gonna do in the future. I think they're on the right track. I think they have a few kinks to work out with some of the things, but overall, this is a great gun that has a lot of promise and a lot of potential. If you're interested in reading a little bit more, I wrote a very detailed article down on our website below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for coming out to the Pew Pew Tactical channel and watching the videos with us. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.